I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. We talk about freaky culture, pop culture, politics, wrestling, and anything else that comes up. Joining me as always today is Brandon.
Hello, my people.
Kale.
Hi.
And Jim.
Hello, everybody.
Today we are going to attempt, and I say attempt, given YouTube's penchant for hating anything I do about wrestling, we are going to talk about our top 5 wrestling theme songs, entrance music. But before we do that, let's step into a cocktail. Brandon, what are you having?
I'm just having some straight Kansas City whiskey.
Is that the Rigers?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard good things. I think I've had it a couple times. Jim, what are you having?
I went back to the Godfather whiskey and amaretto. I put in a splash of Coke.
Seems like there should be a Godfather cocktail with like an orange peel or something.
Maybe they put orange peel in it. I mean, it was from the 70s, so they didn't get too fancy.
Gail, what are you having?
I am having a couple of samples here. One is a Evan Williams white label that was aged in a barrel in my friend Mike's house for 2 years.
What kind of nice person gave you free whiskey in a sample bottle? What kind of great humanitarian did that?
Some crazy person. And then the other is a Sagamore barrel pick rye, which I have been assured is better than the double oaked rye that I had that didn't live up to what I thought it would be.
You didn't care for it?
It was okay, but it was definitely more of something that you would have like after dinner with a cigar or a dessert or something. It was sweet to me. When I think double oak and I think rye, I think pepper and oak. And I didn't get either of those things.
2 things, because I can never figure out what order I'm actually posting these cocktail videos versus our discussion videos. You have either just watched me dump the barrel that Kale is going to try, or you will watch it in the near future. And continuing with the theme of not knowing when my cocktail videos actually come out, you have either recently watched or will very soon watch me do a video about the Mai Tai, which is one of my favorite cocktails. I just finished a new batch of orgeat, so I will probably be drinking Mai Tais at an alarming rate in the next little while. So I've got myself a nice Mai Tai, which I highly recommend. It's a great cocktail. And amazingly enough, some of the prepared ones we tried were not horrible. All right, let's go ahead and start off with Brandon. Kale, you try that out, and when we get to your first theme, I'll ask you what you think of that pick. But just hold off till we get there. Brandon, what's your number 5 wrestling theme? And we'll talk about some honorable mentions before we get to number 1.
Okay. Along that way, I kind of decided not to make a specific list just because I didn't want to tread on too many toes. And
you fool!
But the one I will say that sticks in my head the most is LOD. That what a rush thing was. I mean, everybody knew what that was. Everybody knew what was going to happen. Then Hawk and Animal were going to come out, and it's exactly what you would expect and hope a good wrestling theme song would be. It provided the pop. It told you everything you needed to know. Even if there are bad guys, you were still kind of into it. I don't know, really good. I think it's iconic.
Yeah, I think any good wrestling theme has to have that pop, that thing that right off the bat, that's, you know who this is, and you know some shit's about ready to go down. Like,
yeah, there's no mistaking it for somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I have trouble separating the entrance from the song itself. Like, when I was looking up these songs, I would just look up the entrance, and like it's hard to separate the two.
Kale, to be clear, so what you're saying is sort of the visual and the audio kind of all together.
Yeah, I mean it's a package deal. Like you wouldn't just like listen to this on the radio, or I mean, I know that at some point they must have sold CDs of just entrance music, which I don't know. You'd have to be either a really hardcore fan or maybe not into as much popular music as you would be to have to buy that CD. But as far as LOD goes, yeah, I mean they're a classic tag team. Big spiky shoulder pads. Just
The face paint.
and in the song, like you said, the "Oh What a Rush" Hawk. I mean, iconic.
By the way,
See,
sadly, both members of LOD or the Road Warriors, if you're a WCW fan, have passed away, unfortunately.
I would say the visuals is a step down for me just because they change so often. Like, I don't know what visuals I would associate with that song because it changes whether, as time passes, whether they're heel or face.
I think probably in that case, it's like two big giant dudes walking out with giant spiky shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Not going to forget that one too soon. And this is where editing Mike decides whether he's going to put in the picture of myself at C2E2 wearing Animal's spiked shoulder pads, which is, I consider, an accomplishment in my life. And something that I will always look back on as being awesome.
They're actually his shoulder pads.
Yeah. I've got the pictures. He put, it's like, I don't know. The thing is, like, it's crazy. You go to see celebrities and they'll charge you like $300 or $400 for a picture or whatever the hell it is. And like, it's like $25 to like put on Animal's shoulder pads and take a picture. It's like, that's money well spent.
Not Perry Saturn. We got a picture of him for free, but I think he's crazy.
That's very possible. Jim, do you remember LOD at all?
I remember Road Warriors. So,
okay.
And I will say, I'm glad to hear Kale saying what he was saying because I thought we were doing entrances, not song. So I looked at entrances in general.
Well, to be honest, there's not a huge, like they're both very connected. So I don't think it's a huge problem either way.
So Road Warriors made my list. I love the Mad Max themed costumes and the coming on motorcycles, and it was good.
All right, so Jim, what is your number 5 entrance or entrance theme? Take that as you will.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I love the American flag, the 2x4, the thumbs up everywhere. I don't know if this is part of his entrance, but like doing a football tackle where it gets down.
Yeah.
Here, you guys keep talking for a minute about Hacksaw. I'll be right back.
He'd like come out and like march.
Yep, he marched. He'd do all sorts of things with the 2x4. Sometimes it'd be like a rifle. Sometimes he just pointed at everybody with it.
I'm glad you brought up Jim Duggan though, because these guys talk about the glass break all the time. And as soon as you send Jim Duggan, the first thing that I want to do is go, oh, that rakes right up there with, like Brandon was saying, that first pop, that just instantly recognizable noise that you hear right off the bat. And I think it rivals Stone Cold. And it's just so memorable, like the beginning part of the SpongeBob song. Ooh.
I see. I don't remember how it starts though. Did it start with the hoe thing?
Yeah, that's the first thing that comes off is oh, and then it's just this like 80s style glam music. Dun, 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 dun. And it's just like him waving his flag around, and
I'm a big fan of Hacksaw.
So Jim, I'm right on this.
Fantastic. I will say one wrestler that I wanted to refresh my memory on was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who's behind me, and I could not find his entrance. I mean, there was a gajillion videos of video games of his entrances, but no actual videos of his entrances that I could find. So,
well, I'm glad you cleared that up, because I just thought there was arms growing out of your neck and fire shooting out of your head.
Well, both can be true.
What is going on with Jim?
Steamboat Dragon, the lesser known.
Ricky Steamboat was great too. He was a real good wrestler.
I've got 4 arms. Watch out.
He was one of those great intercontinental people. So you had like him and Macho Man and Mr. Perfect and
Razor Ramon.
Yeah. Well, he would have been a little bit later on, but yeah. All right. I just had to show my hacksaw bona fides. He's a cool guy.
I love that it's on a 2x4.
Well, of course it would. What else would it be on? Just like he didn't hit me with it. And Hacksaw's got some great stories too. He's just like an interesting person to like kind of listen to him talk and tell stories about the old days. Anyway, Kale, what is your number 5 entrance or entrance theme?
Well, I thought we were doing 10, not 5. And I didn't put them in a particular order specifically. I do have some favorites.
I was just saying, Kale, you've seen what happens when we do 5. 5 takes us a significant period of time. So 10, we would be here until early tomorrow morning.
All right. Well, I'm going to start right off with Crazy then.
Al Snow?
As far as just straight music goes, I mean, the entrance is what sells it, but just the straight music as far as like enjoyable to hear, The Ultimate Warrior had some really good entrance music. Just that classic 80s rock, you know, and just I was watching the entrance video and I realized that the Ultimate Warrior only does 3 things. He runs, he smashes into things, and he shakes ropes.
Oh, no, and he jumps on top of people.
Because it's like a 3-minute entrance video, and the entire time he's either running, screaming and smashing, or shaking ropes and screaming. And I just remember, wasn't it Heenan that said this guy makes coffee nervous?
If you hadn't mentioned that, I would have.
When I was looking at it, I realized I came up with a whole new one all by myself. I was like, this is what it would look like if cocaine was a person.
Well, given it was the 80s, you're more right than you probably know.
Probably on massive amounts of cocaine, too.
Well, the thing was, so like when I was a kid, I was a huge Ultimate Warrior fan because I was a kid in the like late 80s, early 90s. And if you're like you just had to be, it was like the law. It's like you had to like the Ultimate Warrior, Batman, and Wolverine. And that's like the basic bitch things to like if you were like, 12 years old in 1992. But the thing is, Ultimate Warrior was like kind of a terrible wrestler. He literally had in the ring, he had like 5 moves, and that was it. He would clothesline people, he would shoulder block people, he would jump shoulder block people, or he would splash them. And like that was pretty much it. That's like his whole moveset. But when you're like, 11 years old, that's like the most exciting thing in the world.
Yeah. He was a commodity. He was selling what it was like to be a big badass dude.
I did it again, also passed away. By the way, that's going to be sort of a going theme, unfortunately, with a lot of our people. Hacksaw's still with us, thankfully. But so far, all the other people we've talked about are no longer with us, which is, it shows you that, wrestling can be very, very tough on people.
I checked out a list today of things that wrestlers did in their past that were illegal. Some of them were interesting.
Oh, there's a great story about Hacksaw and the Iron Sheik getting pulled over. The Iron Sheik is a lunatic. Like he's on Twitter, which is crazy. It's just like the Iron Sheik tweeting out just random shit on Twitter, and half of the things he tweets out are "fuck Hulk Hogan." So,
pretty good thing to show you.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to go on with my number 5, and it's not going to help us in the department of wrestlers that are no longer with us. But it may have shaped my views on law enforcement in a not great way, but it's the Big Boss Man. And it's such a great opening theme, and he was great at that character. But one thing I realized when I started, running the theme in my head, I realized that theme could be used for 2 things equally efficiently. It could be used as the entrance theme for a wrestler in the 1980s, or it could be used as the theme song for an incredibly low rent gay porno film in the 1980s. And it would have served either of those tasks perfectly. I mean, just like you start to picture like the beat and the lyrics, and you're like, oh my God, that would work great in a porn movie. Like, it's just like, he carries a big stick and a ball and chain too. You'll be doing hard time. It's like, oh my God.
I actually don't remember how that one goes.
It literally says you'll be doing hard time because he'll be coming after you. It's like the lyrics are all just like perfect for like a low rent gay porn film in 1984. So I remember that, but it was also just a great wrestling theme, and
that probably exists.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That probably exists.
Oh, it must. It has to, and it's got to be like kind of terrifying. It's like one of those films where you're like, you're pretty sure it's a movie, but like you're also pretty sure that somebody's in counseling because of that movie.
Welcome to Pornomania.
I don't know, Brandon. What was your Big Boss Man or Big Boss Man theme thoughts?
I honestly like. I don't remember the theme song that much. I like the wrestler. I thought he was really good. I think he probably informed my look there for a long time, you know. But no, I always thought he was kind of cool.
Ray Traylor,
especially back really when the 90s, when I was more of a right winger and thought cops were cooler than I do now.
Jim, Kale, do you guys have any Big Boss Man thoughts or 80s gay porn thoughts?
I like the fact that his real name is Ray Traylor. He should have just kept the name Ray Traylor. It reminds me of this character I used to know that people called something. Well, I guess we're not supposed to say that kind of thing now, but it involved trailer and another word.
That what that made me think of is so I was watching the videos about Roddy Piper recently, and oh, that's not the right person. Jim, do you know the Big Boss Man?
I really don't remember watching very many matches with him. I vaguely remember him, so I don't really have strong memories of him.
Well, he carried a big stick. I can tell you that much. Roddy Piper's real name, and it's always crazy because like usually like wrestlers will have like, Hulk Hogan's real name is Terry Bollea, and Shawn Michaels' real name is Michael Hickenbottom. You know what Roddy Piper's real name is? Roderick George Toombs. Like, that's a great name. That's so much better than any wrestling name you come up with. Roderick George Toombs.
Remember Mortis?
David Ashford Smith.
Yeah. Lord David Ashford.
But I don't know. I just figured like Roderick George Toombs sounds like a Spider-Man villain.
The fourth.
Toombs.
So now, Brandon, you're number 4.
I'm gonna go with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Always one of my favorites. I loved his laugh. I think that laugh, that Neidhart kind of informed the over-the-top laugh I tried to do when I was younger. He was also kind of a friend of my uncle's. He signed an autographed a picture for me, and I just never got it because my uncle lost it somewhere along the line. But no, I always thought he was pretty cool, and it's hard to come up with a more memorable entrance than that.
The number one reason I didn't put him on my list is because I knew he'd be on your list.
Yeah,
great laugh.
A few of those too.
He's right off the bat that he's a heel.
Oh yeah.
Like you hear that laugh and you're like, okay, this guy's definitely a bad guy. I don't know much about what's going on in the ring right now, but I know that guy is the one I'm supposed to root against.
That's the thing. I don't think he ever took a turn his face either. At least not after he got big. I don't think he ever went that route.
No, I can't imagine.
Everybody's got. Didn't he try to buy his way out of a couple of matches?
Oh, he bought his way out of everything. I mean, he's the one who brought in the Undertaker, right?
Yeah, him and
Paul Bearer and Virgil.
No, it wasn't Paul Bearer. It was the
Brother Love. Brother Love,
yeah.
By the way, I think we just recently hit like the 25th or 30th anniversary of the introduction of the Undertaker. Like just in the last couple of days.
Was it Survivor Series?
I want to say yes, but I can't remember for sure.
Survivor Series like 86 or
No,
something?
it couldn't have been because Survivor Series would have been in Thanksgiving. So it must have been it wouldn't have been SummerSlam either. I'm not sure. Maybe Royal Rumble. I don't know. I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on the $1 Million Man and his amazing laugh?
I I love his tux and the gold on everything. I mean,
and it was a breakaway tux. It was a break. They were all breakaway tuxes.
Speaking of pornos,
and he created the $1 Million Championship.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And he had what was his henchman, the butler guy?
Virgil,
that's it. Yeah.
You know what I just realized? He introduced Stone Cold, or he introduced, what do they call him?
Stunning Steve Austin.
No, Stunning Steve Austin was WCW. When he first came over to WWF, I think they called him like the Ringmaster or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, something like that.
So did Ted DiBiase introduce the two maybe biggest wrestlers in wrestling history? That's something.
Maybe. It's claim to fame.
Kale, $1 Million Man thoughts?
I think his nephew lives in Des Moines.
Is he alive or dead?
He's alive. Well, the last time I knew he was anyway.
I don't have much else to say about him. I mean, yeah, he's a great character. The laugh, the song. We're talking about themes, so the song, yeah. I mean, everybody's got a price, right?
Because I'm the $1 Million Man.
Money, money, money. I mean, there's nobody else's theme song. You're not getting it confused with anybody else.
Few characters quite as 80s as that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to throw one out there just to test that theory.
Well, hold on. Let's stand by. Jim, what is your number 4?
So I don't know if this is his usual song or not, but Macho Man, one of the clips I saw, he had Pomp and Circumstance.
Oh, yeah, that was, I don't know if it was always his theme, but it was for a significant length of time.
Quite a while. He did the King of the Ring thing for quite a while, so yeah, he always had the.
And they carried him out on the throne with his manager next to him, like the Queen. Like
that Elizabeth?
No, that probably would have been Sherry.
Sherry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, probably sensational Sherry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was also confused. I assumed it was Elizabeth, but it wasn't.
Well, it might have been. That was his real life wife for a long time, until she left him for Lex Luthor, and then she. This is gonna be a going theme. And then she passed away due to drugs, and now Macho Man's also dead. So, and Lex Luthor, I think, is alive, but I don't know if he's in great shape.
If you make it to retirement age out of that business, you're probably not in great shape.
By the way, Brandon, just for reference,
Well,
Ted DiBiase is alive, and his name is Theodore Marvin Willis, which is a very unassuming, like a CPA or something.
One of the crime stories I read about the wrestlers was that Lex Luger had a bit of a substance abuse problem, and that's why
Could you phrase that?
Now, Kale's internet is attacking. And also his son Ted DiBiase Jr. is also in wrestling now too.
Oh, that's right. He's been in there for a while though, hasn't he?
And I think he took over. What was like the Marine, the one that John Cena did first? And I think Ted DiBiase's kid took over after that. But Kale, are you back with us?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. What is your numero cuatro?
Well, since Brandon wants to talk about songs about money, Shane McMahon, Here Comes the Money. Here comes the money. He was an interesting character to watch because he was doing that rebelling against my dad thing. But the song itself, I mean, like comes out. He's not shying away from the fact that he's this pampered rich kid. He's using it as like, okay, yeah, well then I'm going to take all this money and this influence I have and go fuck with my dad. and the song is just fun, and like he dances around the whole time. And
I think he's actually out of the WCW now, or WWF,
WWE,
whatever it is. Damn it,
Brandon will get to the right acronym one of these days. Honestly, if I
like-
was taking one of the McMahon themes, I thought Vince McMahon's theme was better.
Really?
The no chance, whatever that I can't.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna sing because we'll get the whole freaking video banned.
Is that true if you sing?
Yeah.
No,
don't
just
know.
Micah.
I don't want to test it either way.
I mean,
Also,
maybe
I
if you're
don't
really,
sing
if
well.
you're really good at singing, maybe. I don't know.
Also, Kale, for a quick break in the action, what do you think of that barrel pick or the single barrel?
This is
oaky.
actually this is the Evan Williams white label
Right.
from your barrel.
It is oaky.
It's quite oaky, and I really enjoy that because I like an oaky spirit. The legs are pretty light. It has a good mouthfeel though. And when you first taste it, you get like a real good butteriness. And then it's got a fair, I think a likable amount of warmth on the down, and just like some other flavors coming out. I mean, the oak is very prominent, but it doesn't take away from other. I mean, there's some caramel in there, and just some, usual your baking spices, that kind of thing. It's a really good overall, I think.
I like it a lot too. I thought maybe I overdid it on the age just a tiny bit, but I don't know. Anyway, enough bourbon. Let's talk about something important like wrestling. My number 4 is one. Now, to be fair, I don't know if I'm picking this because I like the song or because I sort of remember it as the peak of when we were all watching wrestling together. Jim, no offense, you weren't there, but it's fine. Well, I mean, you were there. You weren't like on another planet. You weren't
Right.
at the particular crappy trailer where we were watching wrestling. And that is the NWO theme. I think that the stuff they were doing was so cool. And anytime, because like the NWO theme wasn't just one wrestler's theme song. It was like the whole group's theme. And what was great is you would every time you were watching, what was the show? Nitro. Anytime you're watching Nitro, every so often NWO would just come out and take over. Like they would kick the announcers out. And so like there'd be a match going on in the middle of the match. And then all of a sudden you just hear the NWO theme come out, and like Scott Hall, again, RIP, and Kevin Nash would come out and just be the announcers. Yeah. And they were just, and of the two, Scott Hall is the small one at like 6'8",
Yeah.
And so they pretty much got to do whatever they want. And it was great. So like, not only was the theme good, but it also announced that something cool was going to happen. Whether it was going to be a wrestling match, whether it was going to be them taking over the announcers, or that one pay-per-view where they had their whole own pay-per-view. It was a lot of fun. And I always like associate that with like, something's going to happen.
Well, the Monday Night Wars, I think, was really a good sell to Generation X, because a lot of us could relate to the storylines that they were playing out. It felt like, like they were lashing out against authority and stuff, and just tired of doing things how other people wanted them to do them. And like you guys were saying about like taking over the show, I think the one that I remember the most is when they like basically cleared out the whole arena and it was just them, and they had the Giant or Big Show or whatever his name was at the time out there wrestling somebody, and he was a member of the NWO at that point. And I can't remember which one of them said, he's got him in a large package instead of the small package. It's the large package.
Yeah, when it's him involved, nothing's going to be small.
Who was your favorite of the not big 3 NWO members? For me, it was Buff Bagwell.
I would say it was probably the tag team of Buff Bagwell and Scott Norton, because they played off each other so well.
Yeah.
Because Scott Norton was basically a thug. He just looked like a thug. Like he didn't have really like a personality or anything. He was just like a big guy who stands in the back with sunglasses on and just waits until it's time to punch somebody. And at the same time, Buff Bagwell is the one who's just constantly talking shit every single match over, like throughout the whole thing. Yeah, it was those two together worked very well together.
He's always like, it was this high.
See how high I got on that drop kick? I don't know, Jim, did you watch when NWO was on? This would have been like mid 90s, late 90s probably, right?
I
98, somewhere in there.
So I think no. My guy that I palled around with in law school was an avid wrestler watcher. But is Billy Corgan the owner of NWA now? Like, is that what happened to him? He's not making music anymore.
I'll look it up when the next person goes. It's possible. He's
So
like,
I was very
Billy
confused.
Corgan kind of has done a bunch of stuff.
I looked up NWA to refresh my memory. I'm like, Billy Corgan, why is that name popping up? That's weird. So it looked like from some articles that he bought it in 2017. I don't know if he still owns it or what.
Well, I think this would be probably a honorable mention, maybe, but since you bring up the NWO, they did have one particular segment called the Wolf Pack, and they had a song as well, and I really liked their song too. It was more like hip hop type thing, but they always come out, and it had this really cool beat and just this real low bass, like boom, 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 boom. But they'd come out and they'd always be like, "Oh."
I say, if we're going to talk about NWO individual songs, then I think you got to go with Stevie Ray Vaughan. You got to go with Hogan's. Chopped it down with the edge of my hand one.
No, not Stevie Ray Vaughan. Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
Sacrilege.
Oh, same year. Both great guitarists. Just kind of different.
It's not that big a deal.
As far as I can tell, Jim, you were right. He owns National Wrestling Alliance, which is apparently a Nashville thing. I think it's somewhat related to Crockett, but I'm not sure exactly how. I'd have to get in a little more in depth on there. That's Billy Corgan apparently owns a wrestling alliance. Who knew?
Well, what else is he going to do?
Why go on tour when you can do that?
Well, those people tour even more, although it seems like they're like more a regional thing. So I think they probably stay like Tennessee, maybe Kentucky area, which I might check them out when I'm down there. All right, Brandon, what if we move on to your number 3? What would that be? That's not a proper way to ask that question.
This one is more the newer, but I'm going to go with The Game, Triple H. I think not only is that one of the best all-time entrance songs, but when Triple H makes his return after that, tearing that entire leg muscle and the pop that happened there, the explosion that happened in Madison Square Garden when he came back, for me, those two and that entrance theme are always linked. And I don't know. I think it's an amazing song. I think it's the perfect wrestling song, especially for who he was and at what time he was. And that explosion just always sticks in my head.
R.I.P. Lemmy.
Is he the one that spit water?
Yes.
Oh no, Triple H is gone. Who's going to spit water all over themselves?
Just imagine this is water above my head.
That was Christian that said that, by the way.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
And also remember Triple H was part of so in WWE they called it the Degeneration X, which him and Shawn Michaels, which is so weird because if you watch the Monday Night Wars, you'd see Shawn Michaels and Triple H doing almost the same shtick that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were doing over in WCW, and that's because they were all part of one sort of unofficial group which was called the Clique. Which was basically kind of like wrestling's first totally unofficial union. And that's the reason why a lot of those wrestlers had the power to pick their matches that they did, is because they had all of the biggest wrestlers and they weren't going directly in opposition with Vince McMahon, but they would certainly, dictate to some degree or the other, the things they wanted to do. There's a great quote from Kevin Nash on his way out where Vince said, can you put over Taker on your way out? And for those that don't know the terminology, put somebody over means to allow them to beat you, clean. And Kevin Nash was like, absolutely no problem. And then Vince was like, can you put over Ultimate Warrior 2? And Kevin Nash replied something to the effect of, well, you can put him in the ring if you want.
Yeah, a lot of wrestlers seem to really hate Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, he was not well liked in the community at all.
And that's the exact opposite for the Undertaker.
Yeah, Undertaker is basically always known as the most well-respected wrestler in the business. He was the one who's in charge of wrestling court, and he was just kind of always thought of as the consummate professional.
I want to explain that again too.
Yeah, explain wrestling court.
Oh, a wrestling court. Okay, so wrestling court is it's a backroom thing basically, where it could be a wide variety of things. Sometimes like some guy slept with your wife. It could be some guy used your locker. Just like any sort of infractions, you could deal with it yourself, or you could take it to wrestling court. And basically that means you went before the Undertaker and you both kind of pled your case. And he would basically say, this is what's going to happen. And his fee for adjudicating wrestling court was a bottle of Jack Daniels. So that is wrestling court.
Yep.
You lost Kale again.
Oh, he'll be back.
Your puppy sounds like a Wookiee.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
We are on to Jim.
All right.
3.
So I did not watch these guys wrestle. Their intro was a little campy, but that was interesting. The Brood, they come up from below stage into a ring of fire. They drink some blood, kind of like communion maybe, and then spit out the fake blood.
So like Edge and...
That's what it's like, Edge and Christian and Gaggerl.
Yeah.
Gargle.
And they had fake fangs.
I don't remember them a lot. I do know one of the most uncomfortable feuds in that period of wrestling was Lita had been, dating Matt Hardy for a significant period of time. And she was like the valet for them and ended up dumping Matt Hardy for Christian. And then they turned it into a work, like, kayfabe thing. So it was one of those things where in kayfabe, Lita had left Matt Hardy for Christian, but in real life, she had left, that guy for the other guy. And it was sort of widely known as something that basically everybody was incredibly uncomfortable with, because it's like the situation was uncomfortable in real life, and then they turned it into a real life work. So
opposite of real life work. That's bizarre.
Kayfabe, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember them a ton. Kale, you like Christian and Edge a little bit, didn't you? I feel like Kale is he's perfectly posed, like Kale in repose.
Let me ponder the deeper meanings of Christian and Edge.
There could not be a better place to pause Kale. Just like, perhaps we could all just think about our choices.
Kale, you're back.
I want you to know that your screen did freeze, but it froze with the absolute perfect expression on your face that it could possibly have had. So you'll be happy to know. Kale, you liked Christian and Edge a little bit, didn't you? I thought you remembered sort of not being a huge fan, but kind of liking them.
They're all right. They weren't like my favorites or anything.
They had a big thing against the Hardys.
Yeah. You guys kind of already like blasted through some of my favorite picks off my list. You mentioned Triple H, and Brandon, I'm assuming you're talking about the Motorhead song, the game.
Yeah.
But and then he had an original song too before he. Well, I mean, even okay. Original song with some hoity-toity sounding stuff because he came out as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. But then when he became the game, he had this other song. I don't know if that was called The Game as well.
No, I think The Game was only the Motorhead one.
Might have been called
Because he originally started off as kind of like a Lloyd Fauntleroy, kind of like, frilly cuffs kind of a character, and then they switched him
in
over.
WCW, yeah.
No, that was in WWF too, or in WWE. He was sort of like a more like it looked like a Legends of the Fall kind of character. Very I don't know, not Legends of the Fall. That's not the right movie I'm thinking of, but like frilly cuffs and like coming to stage in some kind of a classical music kind of a thing. But then they changed it when he changed to be the Game.
But that song, I remember that song. Even I think that Motorhead the Game is just a really great song for him. I mean, the entrance is perfect. Everything's well timed out. The original one though, like he had like lasers shooting around and stuff, and just had this really weird kind of distorted electric sound to it. You can look it up sometime. And then you mentioned DX. DX I like that song too, and it's one of those recognizable ones. As soon as it comes out, he's like, "Are you ready?" And they were always a fun duo to watch, and as a group too.
Well, the one that Jim brought up was the Broods. That was Edge, Christian, and Gangrel.
Yeah, I don't remember Gangrel. I know Edge and Christian from going on to do other things. I vaguely remember the Brood, that he brought it up, because I remember them wearing like those big silver chain things, and I remember like they always had like pop collars on their white shirts and stuff.
You remember them spitting blood?
By the way, for some reason, I'm just looking at a picture. The guy that played Gangrel, his neck is definitely bigger than his head, which is a little disquieting.
That's impressive.
That shouldn't be possible. Like your neck is supposed to be smaller than your head. Like how is that? I feel like he just spent his whole like time in the gym just like doing neck exercises.
Like someday I'll have the
biggest freaking neck in the world.
Actually, when we were in high school,
we'll have neck wrestling competitions.
Like,
I was a fullback, and that was many, many pounds ago. And we had a machine that had two things. You'd stick your head in it, and you'd tighten them down, and you'd go back and forth, and then the other one would go front and back. It was to strengthen your neck. Because when you're, trying to run with the ball and someone's trying to smash your brains in, it helps to have a stronger neck so you don't break something.
By the way, also Christian was in an episode of The Flash playing Atom Smasher.
Interesting. I have not seen that.
All right, Kale, what is your number 3?
Did I get 3? Since we've already covered a few things here, I'm going to go ahead and kick up the fun. Coco Beware.
Coco Beware.
A song called, his song was called The Bird, and he had his parrot was his signature entrance. He'd come in and dance, and like he was always smiling, and everybody would get up and start dancing and doing the same thing. And I think the bird's name was Frankie, but I don't know if that's important. But yeah, it was the bird, and like he'd come out, and it was like you just knew this guy was a good guy, and like everybody was happy to see him, and just made everybody in the arena smile. They did release a CD. I did look into this a little bit, and he did a single on this CD. They had wrestling songs that weren't theme songs. It was wrestlers performing pop music, I guess you would call it. But he did a song called Pile Driver, and I guess that was like the most popular song on the album.
Nice.
By the way, I would just like to say, Coco Beware, real name James Ware. And also, I have fantastic news. He is alive. Thank goodness.
Real name Frank Welker.
Unfortunately not. I just thought it was great. His name is actually James Ware. So he kept his last name. You'll love to see it. And he is from Tennessee, so he could actually be in Billy Corgan's promotion. Wouldn't that be something? Billy Corgan and Coco Beware together, finally, after the public had been demanding it for clearly decades.
Last.
Billy Corgan's like, wanna go for a ride?
And Coco Beware's like,
better be a convertible.
Billy Corgan's like, I don't know what that means, but okay, let's hop on in. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so my number 3 is one that I'm ashamed of. I'm ashamed of putting in here because I shouldn't, but I feel like this is probably the most iconic song. Well, in my case, the third most iconic song in wrestling. And that is I Am a Real American, Hulk Hogan. I don't love Hulk Hogan as a person. I don't really like Hulk Hogan as a person. I kind of think he's kind of a D-bag. But that is a great entrance theme.
Especially for its time.
Right. I mean, you picture pop, like the first like 3 notes, like dun, dun, dun. And you're like, yes, now there's going to be somebody who's going to come out who knows 3 wrestling moves and who's going to use those 3 moves that he knows very, very effectively. It is, it's a great theme.
But he has gajillion-inch pythons.
Yeah.
Were they 24-inch pythons?
I don't remember.
24 or 26, something like that.
35.
It was 24-inch pythons, but they weren't really 24-inch pythons.
112.
They
It's
were
like
garters.
fingers in the
Did
back.
you see I think maybe we talked about this in an earlier episode. Do you see The Rock at the Super Bowl? Like his biceps looked like they were bigger around than his waist.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. Like if you watch Peacemaker, which has John Cena, and John Cena is like this, you have John Cena around like regular sized people, and it's like he looks like some sort of a mutant or something. Like his body is just like way too big for everything. Like,
yes,
it's like you don't look, strictly speaking, human.
I just saw one of those YouTube shorts, and they were interviewing the Big Show, and they asked him about John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and Goldberg, I think, on who he thought was the strongest, and he said hands down it was John Cena. He said when he held you up in that finisher of his, there's no getting out of it. He pushed me up, it's just.
Well, he said watch him in Peacemaker. I mean, the guy is just like he's just a slab of human. He's just like like say the human before they're cut into the shape they're supposed to be. Like that's John Cena. He just looks like no, you're supposed to cut him down to the right size for a regular human, and now he just looks like this.
You did it wrong.
But I think Jim's point was that The Rock is...
Well, The Rock too. Like they're just these people that are just like they're not human people. They're like, I don't know.
He looks like a superhero.
Well, it's funny too, because like you see the wrestlers from back in the day, by comparison, like Hacksaw, like Hacksaw's a giant dude. Hacksaw's a really big dude. But then you see him like compared to the guys today, and they're all just like, I mean, ridiculous. They exercise 45 times a day. And it's like at the time, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and he wasn't like one of the super cut ones.
No,
but like the British Bulldog, for example, or the Warlord were probably two of like the most like cut wrestlers. And they were probably be considered almost average today by comparison. John Cena is almost certainly bigger than the Warlord, which is crazy because back in the day, the Warlord was like probably the biggest wrestler you could think of.
Yeah.
Or like Bad News Brown is one of my favorite wrestlers. I mean, like you look at him compared to the guys today and he looks like just kind of a schlub until you go like stand next to Bad News Brown and realize he's like a giant dude too, but he's just not like,
Or Mike, one of Mike's favorites, Ahmad Johnson, was that his name?
Oh, that's Brandon liked him. Ahmed Johnson, by the way, has not a lot of friends in wrestling.
Yeah, I've heard.
Probably he did some bad stuff back in the day.
Well, I think he was a person who was kind of in the same position as the Ultimate Warrior, where he kind of got a push because of his physique, and never really went through all the stuff to get the skill necessary to be where he was. And Mabel was another one that was like that, where he kind of got to where he was through his size, and was unsafe. Was not as safe as he could be.
How about Bobby Lashley?
I have heard. I don't know about Bobby Lashley. But I have heard that one of the wrestlers that a lot of people were intimidated by, even in the back room, was Ron Simmons. That guy's apparently like old school badass.
Haku very much in the same boat. In fact, there was a thing where he was talking about like most like people that didn't want to mess with people in the back room, and Haku, or what they call him, Meng, I think too. He had a few different names. He was definitely top of the list of like, leave that guy alone.
I thought that Samurai Jack took care of Haku.
I don't understand that reference.
It's a cartoon.
I don't understand cartoons. I've never watched a cartoon.
Well, it's a cartoon and it's not from the 80s, so maybe you've never seen
Well, how would I know anything about that then? All right, Brandon, I believe we are on to your number 2.
Let's see.
See, Brandon's big number 2.
I'm kind of hesitant here because I don't know. I'm gotta think that Kale probably picked this one too, but I'm gonna go with the Undertaker. I mean, that bell at the beginning, that's I mean, talk about iconic. Talk about a pop. I mean, there's every single time he has returned over his 42 decades of being in wrestling, that bell would kind of be the herald of the new era, and just, I don't know.
Brandon just talking about the Undertaker's dong.
Wow.
What? I mean, the sound that a bell makes. Dirty-minded people.
Hey,
by the way, Brandon, Undertaker was my number 2.
The one that brought up gay pornos. I'm just going to say that.
The Undertaker was my number 2 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good, and there's so many times that he has gone back to it. There's times where he even included it, even though he wasn't strictly being the dead man. But I don't know, it was really good.
We sort of talked about the idea of pop, the idea of like you can hear one note or two notes, and everybody knows like shit's about ready to go down.
Yeah,
honestly, I think the best part of Undertaker's song though is before you even hear the gong or bell or whatever the hell it is. Like, it's going to be him because everything's just hustling and bustling around. And then all of a sudden, all the lights go out. And there's just no noise except for the crowd going, because...
Yeah, there is one
where coming. And then you hear
definitely the atmosphere is definitely, the entrance itself is all one big piece. Like you were talking about earlier, Kel. That's definitely one of them is the Undertaker's.
And also a thing that should be mentioned about the Undertaker that probably isn't talked about enough because he's a professional. He's got a great entrance music and all this other stuff. The Undertaker's a great wrestler. Like he can do stuff that people his size cannot do.
Yeah.
I mean the rope walk, all that other stuff. Like he is just crazy with the stuff he can do. And I mean, like his knees have got to be just like bone on bone at this point. I think Kevin Nash is kind of the same way. Like his knees are just like shot. But just like able to do stuff that you just like, how is a guy that is like 6'9" walking the ropes and doing this other shit and doing it's crazy that he's able to do that. And they switched that American Badass theme, which I was never a big Kid Rock fan to begin with. And I didn't think that character was great for him. I thought it's okay. I get it. But I think that the sort of the dead man, it was just like his character and he was fantastic at it. And like I said, Kale, you're 100% right. The idea of the sort of the full idea, the full experience of the lights all going out, sort of going back to childhood. I watched at a house show, the Ultimate Warrior fight the Undertaker. Which at the time I was rooting for the Ultimate Warrior because I was an idiot. And I was wrong. I should have been rooting for the Undertaker. And you watch that and you see like the Ultimate Warrior's move set and what he was capable of doing in the ring versus what the Undertaker was. And I can just imagine people backstage watching this match and being like, Ultimate Warrior doesn't deserve to even be in that ring with this guy. Like he doesn't even deserve to be there. And they'd be right in saying that. Yeah. Great wrestler. Jim, do you have any Undertaker experiences that aren't incredibly depressing?
I remember not being really crazy about the Undertaker when he first came out. Like, I felt like it was a little bit over the
Jim not making any friends here tonight.
But in retrospect, I can really appreciate that. Like, he made a memorable character. His entrance is fantastic. That is a great use of fog and pyrotechnics together, which, made the fog light up. And I don't know. I mean, even when the matches started, there was often fog in the ring, which is pretty cool.
Well, yeah. And another thing is, like, he always took his time. So you could hear the song would go on. And if you don't know what the Undertaker's theme song is, go Google it on YouTube, or go YouTube it right now.
Because you won't hear it.
Just type in, and it'll take you to the first thing. But like he would always take his time going down. And there was even one time where I think they had him standing on a cart or something, so his feet weren't moving or anything, but he was somehow floating toward the ring. And the whole time the music's playing, and it's very much a package deal. And even the sound effects, like when he gets to the ring and he does the hat, and the lightning strikes and he takes the hat off and rolls his eyes back in his head.
Yeah, it was arguably the most produced full-on entrance in the whole business.
And I'll be honest, I was saving Undertaker for last because, like I said, I didn't really keep this in order, so I was trying to save the best for it. He's probably my number one as far as entrances go.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a little bit of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers in the character that he created. And there is really something intimidating about somebody that doesn't feel like they have to rush, that they can like it's like, I've already won this match, so why would I run? Like, I'm just gonna walk up to the ring. I'm gonna take my hat off. I'm gonna destroy you, and then I'm gonna walk back out. And it doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Since you bring that up, I do remember occasionally where, especially in like the big time matches, the big pay-per-view matches, where the announcers would be like, they'd be looking, watching the entrance, the other guy's already in the ring, and here comes Undertaker. They're like, this match might be over already. He's already in his head, and I know it's a dramatic soap opera, yeah, and they're just selling its theater. But I mean, just like if you saw these two and you thought like 100% for sure, like this is real, and they're like, oh, this match might already be over, then like if it was like a boxing match or something, you'd think, okay, that makes sense to me. That's psychological warfare.
All right. So Jim, what is your number 2?
So I'm starting to run out. But I'm going to throw somebody out that I never watched wrestle, and I think he kind of looks like a douche, honestly. So I'll be interested to see what you guys think.
Jim, definitely not making any friends.
Right. But I will say, great theme song. Seems like kind of an original entrance, and that's the Sandman. He's got a Metallica song. He comes in through the crowd. He smokes cigarettes. He drinks beer. He smashes beer cans on his head until he's bloody.
I don't remember that at all.
Wow.
From ECW.
Wait,
he always carried the bamboo thing or whatever, the taped up bamboo. You don't remember him? He wore like a
he's ECW. He was ECW.
Blonde spiky hair.
Yeah, blonde spiky hair. So he's too small time? Is that what you're saying?
No, I never watched ECW.
I don't remember that at all.
Well, he came to WWE.
Oh, did he? Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, so he didn't come to WWE till like 2005. I would not probably have been watching wrestling at that point. So I'm sorry. What's funny, you said Sandman, and the first thing I thought was Tommy Dreamer, who is also from ECW. And Tommy Dreamer, I know a little bit. Do you remember Tommy Dreamer?
No.
Well, so is Samoa Joe.
Yeah. He's got like kind of a pedigree. I think he's like, what, second generation, third generation, something?
Make it sound like he's just show dog.
Unfortunately, the only reason capitalism.
Does he come with papers?
I bet they probably do. I would like to say more about the Sandman, but I can't because I don't remember him at all.
So he's got the Metallica song, comes in.
But I think his entrance was fantastic.
It looked pretty original to me.
Like think Cactus Jack's cheaper cousin.
Kale, so did you want to use the Undertaker as your number 2? If so, what I'll do is I'll start going around. We'll get our honorable mentions, and then we'll just come back to you for number 1. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with something though.
That's fine.
Because you had a list of 10.
Undertaker was my number 2. So I'm just going to go around to Brandon. And Brandon, why don't you give us any of your honorable mentions?
I'd say the first one is Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Who probably killed a guy.
Yeah, but that
almost certainly killed a guy and got away with it.
That beginning was always pretty good. And
because he's a murderer.
Nation of Domination. Another, I didn't appreciate it that much at the time, but another very good, a moment, to start thumping and then
it's got a good pop.
Yeah. And you knew what it was. Yeah. Those are my honorable mentions.
Jim, do you have any honorable mentions you want to bring up that we've never?
So I feel like
I
feel like Goldberg got mentioned, but I don't feel like anybody mentioned him as like one of their top 5.
So I think Goldberg is kind of an interesting, in an interesting position because Goldberg came out sort of right after Stone Cold Steve Austin did. And he came out in WCW, and then WWF or WWE brought out Brock Lesnar. And I feel like Goldberg was kind of not a copy of, but sort of similar to Stone Cold, but he didn't talk nearly as well. And then Brock Lesnar was like, it's like they're all Xerox copies of each other where you lost a little something. And so I think Goldberg was good. I think he wasn't particularly well liked. I think Brock Lesnar was sort of maybe less good than Goldberg. And also I don't think liked particularly well. I don't know. What did you guys think of Goldberg?
I don't remember an entrance theme.
So the things that stood out to me with his entrance was he started in the locker room and then he came out and he was surrounded by police. So he came out.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
Escort. And often they would do pyrotechnics and he would spit fire out of his mouth.
Oh, that's right.
Goldberg?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Man, I don't remember that at all.
Let me clear this up. Okay.
And he also did kung fu kicks.
Sometimes
that was a little over the top.
An escort, but usually
Bill Goldberg.
And they would start out back in the locker room, and the crowd would be going, Goldberg, Goldberg, Goldberg. And they played that gladiator music like dun, 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 and just these big thumping drums.
Yeah, that I more remember.
He got one hell of a push in WCW. Like he was like
out.
But that's what I remember is WCW. I don't remember
stood in the
flames and kung fu kicks and all that. at all.
The smoke would shoot up, and then he would walk out of the smoke and blow it out of his nose like a bull. Like,
I remember that.
And then, you know, go to the ring and spear people because he was a former football player.
I think the problem with Goldberg is he came out right on the heels of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I think a lot of people kind of felt like he was doing a similar shtick, which I don't know if is entirely true. Huh?
Yeah, they're not that close.
No. It's one of those things, looking back in retrospect, I don't think they really were that close at all. But I think at the time people thought they were too close. And I think that's why there was a little bit of a backlash against him. And then Brock Lesnar, I thought, was like Goldberg with even less personality. I thought Brock Lesnar was maybe like a personality
muscly
vortex
guy.
where no personality was allowed to exist.
In a black outfit. That's what it was. Muscly bald guy in a black outfit.
Right. Yeah. They both wore black trunks and were bald. And had goatees.
So I have another honorable mention, and that is another person I never saw wrestle, Kane. But his intro innovation was having the pyrotechnics in the corner posts of the ring, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah, so I remember, Brandon, do you remember Kane's first entrance?
Well, the first one we saw, yeah.
And no, that was his first. That was the first time he popped up.
Was it when we were watching with Mikey?
We would. So one of our best friends loved Kane. So of course, as good friends, we would do everything we could to talk shit about Kane every chance we got. Which I feel bad about, because I think that the wrestler is Snuffleupagus. There's nothing wrong. He was perfectly good wrestler. He had a great entrance and all that other stuff. But it's just one of those things. Like, if one of your friends likes a wrestler, the thing you are forced to do is to talk shit about that wrestler constantly. No, he was good. He was good. He's mayor of some city in Kentucky.
Yeah,
he's like Republic.
One of the ones I wanted to mention, because I can't nominate him for theme song, but I want to, is Mick Foley. I mean, talk about a fantastic performer and human being, but I don't know that any of his specific entrances, like Dude Love, Cactus Jack, I don't know any of those are specifically like pop oriented.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I guess probably Cactus Jack. I would, if I was going to
Bang Bang thing, maybe.
Yeah,
I watched a little clip of that today because he says it feels like he's only known for the fact that Undertaker threw him off the top of Hell in a Cell.
God, I remember
that's like
that.
the
That
only
was
thing
so painful. Like that hurt to watch.
He said he didn't watch the video of that match for 10 years.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have either. Jesus,
because he was just like, you know, that's not the only thing I've ever done in my career, but that's the only thing fans ever want to talk about.
Yeah, watch the video, for God's sake. Of course, that's why they know him.
Yeah.
Jim, if you ever get a chance, watch the video of Undertaker throwing Mankind off a steel cage, and you're like, and that guy's not dead? Like, it was crazy.
And that was only the first time, because then he got back up and went through the middle part.
Yeah, he went off the side of the thing onto a table, and then he went through the steel cage, which wasn't originally planned. Because off the side was planned, through the steel cage wasn't planned. And there's a videotape of Mankind being wheeled through the locker room on a stretcher. And this wasn't a kayfabe. This was like the documentary people were filming this. And he's sitting there, and he's got blood like coming out of his face and everything. And he's like, I think we did a really good job tonight. And you're like, please stop. Mick, please stop. Just stop. You're clearly broken in a variety of ways. Okay, so Kale, I guess, Jim, do you have any other honorable mentions?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Kale, do you have any honorable mentions?
I'll give you two. Jake the Snake Roberts.
That's a good one.
His theme song was like just your classic 80s kind of guitar riff. But it would just show it coming out with it. He had a snake. He was always smoking and drinking because obviously he wasn't in the best shape of his life. He just came out and like, yeah, well, I'm going to kick your ass now.
Although it's funny, you look back, he was probably in pretty good shape. Like, he was in 80s good shape.
Yeah.
He was second generation too.
That's right, he was.
He was at least as in good shape as Tom Selleck. But anyway, because they both had big money.
A quick shout out for Mikey. Van Vader's entrance is, it's time, it's Vader time. That one's pretty memorable too.
And you made fun of that entrance on no less than 800 million thousand occasions?
Yes, at least.
I remember the one thing about the Kane thing, though, was like you said something about showing him your one-eyed monster.
Yeah.
But beyond Jake the Snake, here's another one that you guys may not even remember: the Boogie Man. Just really creepy music. Very tribal, kind of voodoo sounding kind of music, and he would come out with like this staff that had red smoke coming out of it, and there was red smoke everywhere, and he always had his face all painted up crazy, and he had a clock. I'm not sure what the clock was, but he'd always smash it on his head. He would smash this big white face clock on his head. Looked like an old school alarm clock with the bells on top, but it was like way oversized. And like in the song, this like weird tribal music going, he's like, I'm the Boogie Man, and I'm coming to get you. That was the words. And then he would like come out to the ring and like put worms in his mouth and eat worms in front of the guy, and just craziness. But I mean, once you see it, it's hard to forget. It wasn't like he wasn't a great wrestler. He wasn't even that popular, but it's just one of those things you never forget.
I feel like you forgot to mention Al Snow.
Oh, yeah, with the head.
The head guy. He was like, he would run out with like a mannequin's head. That was like his thing, which is incredibly bizarre. And I can't describe why it's hilarious, but it was the time for whatever reason.
I mean, we could talk about gimmicks all night long. We could talk about
gimmicks is a video in and of itself. that is maybe several videos in and of themselves.
Who's the one that had the lantern made out of his ex-partner's head or something?
It's probably Al Snow, I would think. Is that what was the head to him?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Might have been Al Snow. It's possible. Okay. So I'm going to mention some of my honorable I'm going to mention some of my honorable mentions. That's English. So first, Demolition. If you're going to mention LOD, you got to mention Demolition. They had a badass theme song. It was very like kind of grinding, and here's Demolition. They're a tag team. Here they come now. Those were not the lyrics, by the way.
They said that Axton will smash you, because that was the name of the two guys, Axton Smash. And then there was Crush.
I think there was a fourth one too at some point. Anyway, Demolition. Another one I think you should give credit to is John Cena. John Cena's theme song is sort of iconic. And especially since it got turned into that meme, like, his name is John Cena.
I forgot about
that. Jim, if you want entertaining a few minutes, go to YouTube and just type in "his name is John Cena" compilation. And people do very fun things with that. His name is John Cena. Anyway, I'm going to mispronounce this. Shinsuke Nakamura. So that's one. I don't know the wrestler at all. I was just going through these sort of top wrestling themes, and I thought his was really good. And the last two, the first one is Ric Flair. I don't particularly like Ric Flair as a person. He had a great theme song, though. Great theme song. Super memorable. And the number one, not my number one, my number one honorable mention is Mr. Perfect, because Mr. Perfect is perfect. And Kurt Hennig was an amazing wrestler. Probably the best Intercontinental Champion. Like, I don't know. That's a really tough decision, but definitely in the race for best Intercontinental Champion of all time.
I had Ric Flair on there too. I didn't mention it, but yeah, I will bring it up as a honorable mention, because I mean, it's the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey as well. I'm sure that's not the original work why it was created, but yeah, it's very memorable. He comes out with his robe and his big feather boa and whatever.
Who is your top 3 Intercontinental Champions?
I think we should save that to another list, because I think that would make a great list in and of itself. Brandon, why don't you give us your number one entrance theme?
Well, again, I kind of hate. Well, I mean, because Kale brought it up.
Don't do it.
I thought it was really good, and I kept thinking about it ever since. And it's Shawn Michaels. I mean, ever since he said it, I thought, man, I can't get that John thing out of my head now. It's like, yeah, that's.
So what do you like better, the original one where it was Sensational Sherry singing it, or the newer one where it's Shawn Michaels singing it?
I guess I never knew Sherry was the one that did the first one.
So she's the one that originally got him to turn on Marty Jannetty, and I was one of the few people that was like, oh, Marty Jannetty's gonna have a huge career now.
Called it.
Like, being 91, buying, it's like you want to buy the Apple stock instead of I'm buying like GeoCities stock. This stuff's gonna make me a millionaire, I'm telling you. Marty Jannetty's gonna be world champion.
And Shawn Michaels is one of those rare talents where not a lot of people liked him, but they all consider him a hell of a wrestler.
Yeah. There's a great match he did with Hulk Hogan where Hulk Hogan refused to put him over, and so in a way of getting back at him, Shawn Michaels oversold literally everything he did to him. It's a great match to watch because, like, every time Hogan hits him, Shawn Michaels will just go flying backwards.
I heard about that. Yeah,
I can only
Cornette
imagine
was
how much
talking
that
about
pissed off
that one.
Hogan. Like, I think he like clotheslines him once, and Shawn Michaels goes flying out of the ring.
If you want some great stories, listen to Jim Cornette's podcast on YouTube or wherever. It's really good. He talks about that match too.
That's a great one. I'll tell you what, as far as tag teams where you have one member break out, that really is probably the best example. I mean, I can't think of another example where two people sort of came up as a tag team and one person really broke out into the singles that effectively. Because, like, I think Christian,
Jeff Hardy's probably the closest.
Or Christian, I think, broke off on his own and did quite a few things. Like, I guess you could say Warlord and Barbarian, although they were always kind of half tag team, half singles wrestlers. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else to really compare, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, there's few names that are as big as Shawn Michaels. Bret Hart, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fair. Bret Hart's probably pretty close. Jim, do you have any? Shawn... Go ahead, Gil.
I was just saying that Bret Hart had a good theme song too.
Yeah, if I could have been one of the kids that got the sunglasses, that would have made my like decade. Yeah. I was like the coolest thing to have Bret Hart give you a sun, because he always gave his sunglasses away at the beginning of every match, and it was like, and they were like cheap ass little plastic things. They're like fall apart in like a week, but it's like still the coolest thing. Jim, did you have any Shawn Michaels thoughts? If you ever watched him very much?
Nope, no thoughts.
All right. Kale, do you have any getting kicked off of the internet thoughts? No? Okay, good. Glad to hear it. All right, Jim, I think we'll move on for your number one.
So I don't really have a number one, so I'm just gonna talk again about Ricky the Dragon.
Fair enough.
He's got a cool kung fu vibe. Picture earlier kind of showed him shooting fire out of his mouth, kind of having a dragon costume. He often had pretty great costumes. I have no idea what his intro song was like.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're talking best intercontinental champions out there, Ricky Steamboat's definitely in that same running. There's a ton of those really like super proficient, like tactical wrestlers. By the way, Ricky Steamboat's real name, Richard Henry Blood.
Wow, he's a pirate.
Okay, if your name is Richard Henry Blood, you don't go with Ricky Steamboat. You go with Richard Blood. Like
Brother Blood.
Your name is
But
Blood.
You don't really want to be called Dick Blood either.
No, he was a great wrestler. Ricky Steamboat, still alive. We get a win.
He's a straight shooter.
Oh, that reminds me. You were talking about Goldberg, and all of a sudden it reminded me that Gold Dust also had an incredibly good theme.
Goldust is interesting because I think that, Dusty Rhodes was such a big wrestler in the 1980s for very good reason. And was such a big part of wrestling that you can imagine that his son had a lot of, because, Dustin Rhodes in WCW was basically like just kind of the equivalent of like a no-name wrestler, or a second generation wrestler or whatever. And when he came to WWE, he really, for better or worse, distinguished himself. And I think he kind of made that role iconic. And I think there's a lot of people that probably remember Goldust more than they do Dusty Rhodes, which, as a second generation wrestler, that's about the best you can hope for.
Well, and it was, I don't know if it'd be problematic. He was definitely queer coded, but it was a great theme song. And he really, in times when people were doing like NWO and all that, he went an entirely different direction and made it his own.
And he had a valet. What was her name? It was Brandon dropped something apparently. He had a valet that was with him too. Yeah, their whole shtick was very, very unique, and he got a lot of hate for that in the community. because, obviously amongst a group of very body proud kind of guys, then, gay coding is like the worst thing you could possibly have.
There he is. Welcome back, Kale.
All right, Kale, do you have your number one?
Well, since you eliminated all my others that I was going to make number one, you already mentioned him once before. If you're Irish or Scottish, or if you like bagpipes, then you're going to like Roddy Piper.
I didn't mention him honorably, but I should have, because I love his theme song and I love Roddy Piper.
So I feel like I saw him a lot and never saw him wrestle. Did you guys ever see him wrestle?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
I saw him get into a few fights in the ring. I don't know if he was actually wrestling.
Well, he wasn't what you call the most technical wrestler. He wasn't like the, small package guy. But he knew what he was doing, and he knew his shtick, and he was good at it. He was good as a heel. He was good as a face. He had a boxing match against Mr. T.
All right.
Agreed.
And I don't know, Roddy Piper, he was a great wrestler in that he stood up for the, everybody kind of knew him, and he was a very real kind of a guy, kind of a no bullshit kind of a person. And I think you got to appreciate that.
And he smashed Jimmy Snuka with a coconut,
which he should have, because Jimmy Snuka was probably a murderer. Also, when you talk about pop, it's like you hear the bagpipes. The bagpipes is a good pop. Like you hear that, and because he's like a brawler, and he knows how to milk it. Like that's sometimes I think wrestlers, like a lot of people, they want to try to seize the moment too much. And you watch Roddy Piper in the ring, and he knows how to like kind of delay the moment a little bit and really kind of soak it in, which I think all good showmen are good at. Of like, don't force the moment, let the moment kind of come. And I think he was really maybe better at that than any wrestler I ever saw. Just kind of like sitting back and kind of letting it soak.
I think I liked him as a face because I knew he was still going to do dirty stuff when the ref wasn't looking.
Yeah, he was never that facey.
Yeah. Like he'd be like looking out at the crowd like, and like rub his thumb in a dude's eye or whatever.
Oh, he loved the thumb to the eye. That was like one of his favorite little deals. Just like,
or he used to do the face claw too.
Yeah. And he'd hit somebody in the nuts if the ref wasn't looking. Who knows? The ref wasn't looking, it didn't count. So my number one, and I'm amazed we haven't gotten him yet, but it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. We were talking, I think we were talking maybe off camera about this stuff a week or two ago. And like there is no greater pop than that shattering of the glass, because like, and it reminds me of the NWO, which, I mean, they were going on at the same time, so it's not by accident, where the shattering the glass isn't just going to happen at the beginning of a match. It could happen anytime. There could be two people in the middle of a match. You hear that and you're like, oh shit, he's going to fuck somebody up. And, or he could grab Vince McMahon out of his limousine, or he could like attack Booker T in a grocery store. Or he could hit, or he could go after Vince McMahon when he's in the hospital and like hit him in the head with a bedpan. And like, so you hear that music and it's just like, it's a signifier for shit's about ready to be awesome.
Can you imagine how terrifying real life would be if that was a real thing? Like you just be like going to work and you're like, oh shit,
son of a bitch.
Suddenly you're being hit by a bedpan like 6 a.m. You're like, fuck, dude.
Reminds me of Terry Tate, Office linebacker.
Great video.
And then the song's great too, because it's just kind of nice grinding metal soundtrack. But yeah, it's just a great theme for probably the greatest voice in wrestling ever. I don't know if there's ever been a better talker than Stone Cold Steve Austin in any wrestling ever.
Bobby Heenan's got to be close.
Yeah, but he's not a wrestler. I think I would. alter that a little bit because he's not really a wrestler. I mean, somebody that can cut their own promos. A wrestler that's cutting their own promos. I don't know if anybody cuts better promos than Stone Cold does. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. There's a million good ones, but he is just
chewing out, brother.
Go ahead, Kale. Sorry.
And he said John 3:16, blah blah blah, and he was like, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whooped your ass" or whatever. And he says like, "Because Stone Cold said so."
I think that was after his Jake the Snake fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, King of the Ring.
Yeah.
They showed.
That's
I was watching
like,
a bunch of videos of it, and he's like throwing beer cans at the one you were talking about before we started recording, the Olympic wrestler, Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle,
and like he had a whole thing against Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle came out to talk at him and says,
"You broke his freaking neck."
So Steve Austin
great
opening beers and throwing them at them on stage.
You mean that you suck one? You suck.
Probably the most famous was, and this shows you sort of the strength of that character. When The Rock came back and they were supposed to have a fight, and at the time Austin was a heel, but the crowd was cheering for him anyway. And that's something that's sort of unheard of in wrestling. Is you boo the heel, you cheer the face. But Stone Cold came out and the crowd just blew up. They were like, yeah. And so it's something when you can't even get the crowd to boo him when he's the bad guy. But
and then it ends up putting him over even more because they start getting dirtier and dirtier in an attempt to make the crowd hate him, and they just love it more and more because that's his character. And
right, hit him in the nuts.
People with beer. Or I always remember him being like face down, like when he's got like the guy down on the mat, and he'd get right down in his face.
Oh yeah, I forgot the little yell at him thing.
Well, and then there's the match where he passes out from blood loss to Bret Hart, and that one kind of put him over, a big one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could talk about Bret Hart and things that happened to him in that particular hold that happened in was it Toronto? Montreal. Yeah. But that's a story for another thing. I believe we have talked about wrestling themes as much as we're going to talk about them today. Brandon, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, it was a good episode. I enjoyed, I mean, there's a lot of times where I kind of need audio cues or visual cues. Not this one. They're stuck in my head. I know I'm on site in memory.
There's definitely a lot of those that are just kind of second nature.
Yeah.
Jim, do you have any final thoughts?
I was surprised at how much wrestling I remember watching after going back and trying to refresh my memory.
Well, I think it's one of those things, especially stuff you see when you're a kid, it like lodges in little parts of your brain where you don't really realize it.
Yeah, especially Macho Man Randy Savage. He's got a little spot in my brain somewhere.
He's a good one.
Another entertaining thing, if you ever go look up Macho Man Inhales compilation.
Yeah,
he sounds like a pug.
Well, he did like himself a good inhale.
There was one fight. It was Macho Man. God, it might have been Ricky Steamboat. I don't remember, but like they entirely scripted out the entire thing in the back room, move for move, like, and that had just never been done before. And a lot of people really disliked it, and a lot of other people really saw the potential of it. But like him and God, I can't remember exactly who it was right off the bat now. But yeah, they went through and just move for move in the back room, scripted it out, and kind of set the stage for a different version of wrestling then.
Yeah, it'd be fun to come back and talk about just the intercontinental matches, the intercontinental title, because there's so many. Like it's so funny because I don't remember hardly any of the heavyweight matches, but I remember so many of the intercontinental ones.
I mean, one of the most iconic intercontinental to me is Honky Tonk.
Well, Honky Tonk's a big one. Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Ultimate Warrior. I think you have to put in the boat somewhere. Although most people like him. Macho Man, Ricky Steamboat, Mr. Perfect. I mean, just so many really, really great intercontinental, contenders. But I think on that note, we will go ahead and call it a night. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And have a good drink. And have a good day.
You're a dead man, Ramsey.